As a GP, I lived and worked in Rydale, just to the north of here, for 30 years. I had an interest in the overall well-being of the people of Rydale, as well as individuals. Like you, who I suspect love wherever it is you live, I too love Rydale, and I want to look after her. The reason I'm standing here is because of my son, Eddie, who one day came to me and said, Dad, you've got to look at this fracking thing. It's really bad, and it's bad for health. And he gave me a huge document, Concerned Health Professionals of New York, and by page 2, I was trying to work out why anybody conceivably would think fracking was a good idea. Evidence-based science reports were made easy to read, but hard to accept. Here was a powerful industry forcing fracking onto communities, hoping to extract another fossil fuel that didn't even seem to be profitable, but caused a great deal of environmental pollution. Climate change would be worsened, and thus distant communities would also be threatened. Far too much reading on my behalf followed, and I realised that in the 12 years since fracking had started, we just hadn't learnt enough to say that it was safe. Here I was, living in a gas field, stretching from Blackpool right through to Scarborough. The north had been identified by the government for fracking on a massive scale, with potential for major effects on our health, our mental health, and our whole way of living. And more, my grandchildren were being brought up in the sacrifice zone of Rydale that is 90% up for fracking. The more people understand about fracking, the more they are opposed to it. So I began to give talks about health and fracking. And then I decided I would become a district councillor in Rydale, so that I could try to influence the political process as well. So what is the evidence of this novel industry? Close to fracking wells there is a deterioration of air quality. This causes a range of symptoms in children, from increased wheezing, requiring time off school, headaches, clumsiness, intense nerve itching, and nausea, in a sacrifice zone. Adults, in addition, have increased hospital admissions for heart attack, stroke, and Parkinson's disease. 2 separate research teams have shown that there are risks to babies, unborn babies, newborn babies, and to pregnant women, and that these impacts are worse the closer you are to the gas wells. I cannot see how anybody consider it reasonable to expose pregnant women to the risk of a 40% increase in babies born more than 3 weeks early. Fracking, helping to produce premature babies, seems to me unacceptable. Surely politicians cannot defend this current dash for gas. This has to be a red line and further investigated before allowing fracking in the UK. And frack pad workers themselves are at risk. They have high levels of airborne fracking sand. Over half of the frack pad workers found to be at risk of silicosis, which gives progressive scarring of their lungs. And if they survive the breathlessness, they're at increased risk of getting lung cancer. In America, oil and gas workers have a 7 times in-work death rate compared to the national average. This is not clean. This is not safe. Fracking waste is an unsolved problem. The return water from fracking comes up past our drinking water and relies on the challenging well design and engineering to prevent contamination of our water supplies. When it's reused, it is pumped back down the pipe under incredibly high pressure, past our water supplies again. The local frack water is likely to contain mercury, arsenic, lead, radioactive radon, and much more. This is the measurements from Lancashire, so they've given us a great gift. A witch's brew shown to be both toxic and to cause cancer. There's no way to clean an aquifer once it is polluted, and we all depend on good, clean water. The communities where fracking takes place are affected by the boom and bust economic cycle and by people falling out with each other. Social scientists describe them as losing social cohesion and becoming corrosive communities. With the loss of democracy that accompanies fracking, mental health worsens, and from that comes poor physical health. And this all is based on evidence and science. And thus, unlike the government reports, their sponsored research and industry spin, which is based on hope and modelling, no better than a sort of sophisticated guess prone to bias. So what can you do? What can we do? Is this all inevitable? You should inform yourselves and encourage others to find out about fracking. Dip into the MedAct report from the UK, similar to concerned physicians from USA. MedAct is a brilliant report. You can make sure your friends, family and neighbours are more aware. Ask your various councils, whether it's parish, district or county, for their views on fracking and get them to debate the issues, and don't give up. Ask your MP awkward questions and above all, find out how to start a group of your own. I was surprised to find that in my village there was 86% of the residents against fracking. Find how it is in your community and tell your politicians. We don't have to live in a sacrifice zone if enough people are informed and active. We don't have to accept fracking being forced upon us. This is really important and there is no time to lose.